This content is provided for educational and informational purposes only and does not constitute professional real estate, legal, financial, or investment advice. I am not a licensed real estate agent, broker, attorney, or financial advisor in the United States. The information shared in this video is based on personal research, experience, and publicly available resources. Real estate laws, marketing regulations, and licensing requirements vary by state and country. You should always consult with a licensed real estate professional or legal advisor before implementing any strategies discussed in this video. I make no guarantees regarding results, income, or lead generation performance. Your success depends on many factors including market conditions, effort, and experience. By watching this video, you agree that you are solely responsible for any decisions or actions you take based on this content. You've been there. You spend an entire afternoon at a gorgeous property. The sun is perfect, the staging is immaculate. Every room feels like a magazine cover. You take hundreds of photos feeling like a rock star. You get back to your computer, you upload the memory card, and your heart sinks. The photos are fine, but they're not great. The bright, airy living room looks dark and yellow. The stunning view out the window is completely blown out. The colors look flat, the details are muddy. The magic you felt standing in that home is completely gone, replaced by a dull, lifeless digital image that looks like 1,000 other boring listings online. And you know deep down that these photos aren't going to stop anyone from scrolling. Let me tell you a quick story about a 4-bedroom colonial in a suburb just outside of Charlotte, North Carolina. It was a beautiful home, great school district, priced right. And it sat on the market for 187 days. The agent was pulling his hair out. He'd done open houses, price drops, everything. Nothing worked. Finally, in a last-ditch effort, he hired a new photographer. The new photographer didn't change the furniture, didn't change the price. He just took new photos and, more importantly, edited them properly. The home was relisted with the new photos on a Friday. By Monday, they had 3 offers and it sold for $5,000 over asking price. The only thing that changed was the editing. The way the story of that home was told through pixels. That is the power you are going to learn today. This isn't just another boring tutorial about moving sliders around. This is a masterclass in visual persuasion for the American real estate market. I am going to give you the top 5 editing secrets that professional architectural photographers use to turn standard photos into powerful marketing assets that grab a buyer's attention in less than 2 seconds, make them fall in love with a property before they ever step foot inside, and compel them to book a showing. We're not just making photos look prettier. We are crafting a narrative. We are selling a dream. We are strategically engineering images to attract more buyers, generate more offers, and ultimately, put more money in your or your client's pocket. So if you're ready to leave flat, uninspired photos in the past and start creating images that sell, you are in the exact right place. Now, before we jump in, a quick disclaimer. The techniques we're discussing are powerful tools for visual marketing, but they can't guarantee a sale. Every property and market is unique, and factors like price, location, and condition are still critically important. This video is for educational purposes to help you dramatically improve your real estate photo editing skills. So where do we start? The biggest mistake people make is thinking the magic happens with some fancy filter or a make it pop button. That's not it. The real magic, the foundation of every single stunning real estate photo, begins with something most people get completely wrong: color. Specifically, white balance and color correction. This is our tip number 1, and it is, without a doubt, the most important step in the entire process. If you get this wrong, nothing else you do will matter. Get it right, and you're already 80% of the way to a professional-looking image. Why is it so critical? Because color communicates emotion and condition on a subconscious level. When a potential buyer in the US is scrolling through Zillow, they are making snap judgments in milliseconds. If the walls in your photo have a sickly yellow tint, their brain doesn't say, "Oh, the photographer had the wrong white balance." Their brain says, "Ugh, smoker's house." Or, "That paint is old and dingy, that's a project I don't want." If the shadows have a weird blue or magenta cast, their brain says, "This place looks cold and uninviting." You are losing potential buyers before they even read the first word of your description, all because of bad color. The goal for 99% of interior real estate photos is to achieve clean, pure, and neutral colors. Whites should be white. Grays should be gray. The wall color, let's say it's a popular grayish, should look exactly like that grayish, not a muddy brown or a sickly green. This creates a sense of cleanliness, modernity, and a blank canvas, that allows buyers to mentally move their own furniture in. So how do we fix it? First, you absolutely must be shooting in RAW format, not JPEG. If you take one thing away from this video, let it be that shooting in JPEG is like trying to bake a cake, but the baker has already mixed in all the ingredients for you, and you can't change them. RAW format is like getting all the raw ingredients, the flour, the sugar, the eggs separately. It gives you maximum control over the final product in editing. It contains vastly more data, especially color data, which is what we need. Once you have your RAW file open in an editing program like Adobe Lightroom, your first move is to find the white balance section. You'll see two main sliders: temperature, which runs from blue to yellow, and tint, which runs from green to magenta. Now you could just eyeball it, dragging the sliders back and forth until it looks right. But that's a guessing game. The pro move is to use the white balance selector, that little eyedropper tool. This tool is your secret weapon for finding true neutral. You want to find something in your photo that is supposed to be neutral white or a light to medium gray. Do not click on a specular highlight like the reflection on a chrome faucet, because it's pure white and has no color data. You need something that has detail. The perfect targets are often white trim, a white door, the side of a white ceiling fan, or even the grout between tiles. Click on that spot, and boom, watch the magic happen. The entire color cast of the image will instantly shift. That yellow room suddenly becomes bright and clean. That cold blue-tinted kitchen now looks warm and inviting. But we're not done. Often the eyedropper gets you 90% of the way there, but you need to make fine-tune adjustments. After you use the eyedropper, look at the image critically. Do the wood floors look natural? Does the granite countertop have the right tones? Sometimes different light sources in a room, like daylight from a window and warm incandescent light from a lamp, can confuse the camera. This is called mixed lighting. Your job as the editor is to be the final arbiter of what looks right. You might need to nudge the temperature slider a little warmer to bring back a cozy feel, or move the tint slider a touch away from green if you have a lot of color cast from the trees outside the window. Now let's talk about the next level of color correction, the HSL panel. HSL stands for hue, saturation, and luminance. This is where you can surgically target and fix specific problem colors without affecting the entire image. This is the tool that separates the pros from the amateurs. Let's say you've corrected your white balance, but the grass outside the window is so neon green it's distracting. Instead of decreasing the overall saturation of the photo, which would make the beautiful hardwood floors look dull, you go to the HSL panel. You select saturation, you grab the green slider, and you just pull it down a bit. The grass becomes a more natural, pleasing green, while every other color in your photo remains untouched. This is incredibly powerful. Got a bluish reflection on the stainless steel fridge? Go to HSL, select luminance, and push the blue slider up to brighten just the blues, making the fridge pop. Are the red tones in the cherry cabinets a little too loud and overpowering? Go to HSL, select saturation, and pull the red slider down just a touch. You have total control. You are an artist and color is your medium. Mastering the HSL panel is like a chef learning how to perfectly salt their food. It elevates everything. By neutralizing your whites first, and then fine-tuning individual colors, you create an image that is clean, accurate, and professional. It looks real, but it's an idealized version of reality, which is exactly what buyers want to see. This foundational step builds trust and makes the home feel well cared for and move-in ready, all before the buyer has even thought about scheduling a tour. And once you've laid that foundation of trust with a clean, corrected image, you're ready for the second and arguably most powerful step in photographic persuasion. This is where we stop simply documenting the space and start directing the dream. So our second tip is this: master the art of light and color to evoke emotion. This isn't just about making a photo look nice. It's about psychological warfare in the best possible way. You are literally crafting the mood of the home before anyone sets foot inside. You're telling a story, and the main characters in that story are light and color. Let's start with light. In the United States real estate market, there is one phrase that reigns supreme: light and bright. You see it in every listing description for a reason. It's a national obsession. Why? Because light equals space. Light equals clean. Light equals optimism. A dark, shadowy room feels small, cramped, and depressing. A bright, airy room feels expansive, welcoming, and full of possibility. It taps directly into the American ideal of an open, happy home. Your job as an editor is to be the ultimate champion of light and bright, even if the day you shot the photos was cloudy and gray. This is primarily achieved through three key adjustments: exposure, shadows, and highlights. Think of exposure as the master volume knob for brightness. A slight nudge up can transform a gloomy room into a cheerful one. But be careful. If you just crank up the overall exposure, you'll often blow out your highlights, turning windows into blinding white voids of nothingness. This is a cardinal sin in real estate photography. The view outside a window, whether it's a lush green backyard or a vibrant city street, is a feature of the home. Wiping it out with overexposure is like boarding up a window. That's where controlling your highlights and shadows comes in. They are your precision instruments. Instead of using the sledgehammer of exposure, you're now using a sculptor's chisel. Let's talk about highlights first. Your number one goal here is window pull. You need to dial back the highlights specifically. As you do this, you'll see that white void in the window slowly recede, and suddenly the blue sky, the green trees, the neighbor's house, it all starts to reappear. You are literally revealing a hidden feature of the home. You're connecting the indoor space with the outdoor space, which makes the entire property feel larger and more integrated. You're selling the lifestyle, not just the living room. Now for the other side of the coin, shadows. Lifting the shadows is the secret to making a room feel open and honest. Every room has dark corners, areas under furniture, or hallways that don't get much natural light. In a raw, unedited photo, these areas can look murky, even a little ominous. They're black holes of information. By specifically lifting the shadows, you're not just making the whole image brighter. You're pouring light into those specific dark spots. Suddenly, you can see the beautiful hardwood floors that extend under the sofa. You can see the intricate tile work in the back of the shower. You can see the built-in bookshelf at the end of the hall. You are removing mystery and replacing it with inviting detail. It tells the buyer, there's nothing to hide here. Every inch of this home is beautiful and well maintained. Combining these two techniques, taming the highlights and lifting the shadows, is how you create a balanced, dynamic image that feels professionally lit, even if you only use the light available on site. The final image looks vibrant and full of life, inviting the eye to explore every corner of the frame. Now let's talk about light's partner in crime, color. Color is pure emotion. It's what makes a house feel like a home. And the most important color correction you will ever make is white balance. White balance is essentially the temperature of your photo. Is it warm and yellow? Or is it cool and blue? Getting this wrong is an instant deal breaker for a buyer's subconscious. Imagine you're looking at a photo of a beautiful kitchen with white cabinets. But the photo has a strong yellow cast. What does that yellow tint communicate? It says old. It says dingy. It might even suggest a smoker lived there. The whites look like they've been stained over time. It feels dated and in desperate need of a renovation. Now imagine that same kitchen with a strong blue cast. Feels cold, sterile, uninviting. It's like a laboratory or a hospital morgue, not the heart of a home where a family would gather. Your goal is to find that perfect, neutral white. When the whites are truly white, everything else falls into place. The stainless steel appliances look clean and modern. The wood floors look rich and natural. The granite countertops show their true, beautiful colors. A perfect white balance acts as a clean, blank canvas. It allows potential buyers to project their own lives onto the space without being distracted by a weird color tint. They can imagine their coffee maker on the counter, their kids' artwork on the fridge. You're giving them a clean slate for their dreams. Once your white balance is set, you can move on to making the colors pop in a realistic way. This brings us to the crucial difference between vibrance and saturation. Most amateurs just find the saturation slider and crank it to the right. The result? The grass outside looks like a toxic neon green carpet. The red brick on the house looks like it's on fire. And any wood tones look an unnatural garish orange. It screams fake and erodes that trust we worked so hard to build in the first step. Saturation is a dumb tool. It increases the intensity of every single color in your image equally. Vibrance, on the other hand, is a smart tool. It's more subtle and sophisticated. Vibrance primarily increases the intensity of the more muted colors in your image, while leaving the already well-saturated colors alone. What does this mean in practice? It means you can use the vibrance slider to make that slightly dull, blue sky a richer, more inviting cerulean blue without affecting the skin tones of a person in the photo. It means you can make the green lawn look lush and healthy without making the red front door look like a cartoon. Using vibrance over saturation is the key to creating an image that is colorful and exciting, yet still believable. For a US buyer, seeing a home with a rich blue sky and a vibrant green lawn triggers deep-seated emotional responses. It suggests a perfect summer day, a well-cared-for property, A place for backyard barbecues and kids playing. You're not just selling a house, you're selling the American dream. And the American dream is in full, glorious but realistic color. Let's put it all together. Imagine a photo of a master bedroom. The unedited shot is dark. The window is completely blown out. The beige walls have a sickly green tint from the energy-saving light bulbs. It feels like a sad, forgotten room. Now we apply our principles. First, we increase the exposure a bit to bring in some life. We pull the highlights way down and suddenly, through the window, we can see the beautiful dogwood tree in bloom. We lift the shadows, and now the rich, dark wood of the bed frame and the texture of the area rug become visible. Next, we fix the white balance. That sickly green tint vanishes, and the walls become a warm, inviting cream. Finally, we add a touch of vibrance. The blue in the accent pillows becomes a little deeper. The green of the plant in the corner looks healthier. The entire photo is transformed. It's no longer just a picture of a room. It's a story about a peaceful, sun-drenched sanctuary. It's a place of rest and relaxation. That is the power you have as an editor. You're not just correcting a photo. You are crafting an experience and an emotion that sells the home long before the price is ever discussed. And the very first step in crafting that experience, the foundation upon which everything else is built, is our tip number 1. Straighten your lines and correct your perspective. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Straighten the lines? That's it? That's your big secret. Sounds almost insultingly simple, but I am telling you with absolute certainty, this is the single biggest differentiator between an amateur photo and a professional one. It is the silent killer of otherwise great real estate shots. Get this wrong and nothing else you do, not the color correction, not the brightness, not the fancy sky replacement, nothing else will matter. Think about it from a psychological perspective. When you walk into a room and a picture frame is hanging crooked on the wall, what's the only thing you can see? The crooked frame. Your brain is hardwired to recognize patterns in order. Straight, parallel, and perpendicular lines create a sense of stability, calm, and order. They feel solid, trustworthy. When lines are crooked, when the walls of a room in a photograph look like they're leaning in or falling away, it creates an immediate subconscious feeling of unease. It feels chaotic, unstable, and just off. You're not selling a funhouse, you're selling a home, a sanctuary, a place of stability. Your photos must reflect that stability in their very geometry. The culprit here is almost always lens distortion. To capture the full scope of a room, we have to use wide-angle lenses. It's a necessary tool of the trade. But the price we pay for that wide view is that objects at the edge of the frame get stretched, and vertical lines like the edges of walls, door frames, or windows start to bend and converge. This is called keystoning, and it makes a room look warped and unsettling. It can make a perfectly square room feel cramped and claustrophobic, with the walls appearing to close in on the viewer. This is where you, the editor, become an architect of perception. Your first job is to restore order. In programs like Adobe Lightroom or Photoshop's Camera Raw filter, the tool you're looking for is usually called transform or geometry, and this is where the magic begins. Most software has an auto button, and you know what? Sometimes it works beautifully. You click it and like magic, the software analyzes the image and snaps all the lines into a perfect grid. The walls stand up straight, the floor flattens out, and the ceiling becomes level. It's a deeply satisfying click. But professionals don't rely solely on auto. The real power comes from the manual controls and specifically the guided upright tool. This tool lets you literally draw lines on the photo, telling the software, this line right here, this edge of a door frame, it's supposed to be perfectly vertical. You draw one vertical line. Then you find another one on the other side of the room, maybe a window frame, and you draw a second vertical line. Then you can do the same for the horizontals, maybe tracing the line of a kitchen counter or the baseboard. And when you let go, the entire image reshapes itself around the logic you've just provided. The room breathes a sigh of relief. It transforms from a slightly distorted snapshot into a deliberate, architectural rendering. The space feels bigger, more balanced, and infinitely more professional. Now, let's talk about why this is so critical for the US market specifically. The American dream is deeply intertwined with the idea of homeownership, of having a solid, well-built piece of the world to call your own. The visual language of your photos needs to support this dream. Straight lines communicate quality construction. They suggest the home is level, the foundation is strong, and the builder paid attention to detail. Crooked lines, even if it's just lens distortion, subconsciously plant a seed of doubt. They hint at shoddiness, at something being not quite right. Whether you're shooting a classic New England colonial that relies on proud, symmetrical lines for its stately presence, or a sleek modern build in California where clean geometric precision is the entire point of the design, getting the lines right is non-negotiable. For a craftsman-style home in the Midwest, with its beautiful built-in cabinetry and woodwork, correcting the perspective ensures that craftsmanship is presented as solid and true, not warped and wonky. You are visually reinforcing the very selling points of the home's architecture. I once edited a shoot for a gorgeous Tudor-style home in a suburb of Chicago. The photographer had to use an extremely wide lens to capture the living room with its grand, vaulted ceiling and dark wood beams. The initial photos were dramatic, but the walls were leaning so severely it almost looked like a fisheye lens. The beautiful, strong oak beams looked like they were bending under the weight of the roof. Felt precarious. My first and only step for the first 10 minutes of editing was to go into the transform panel. I used the guided tool to trace the vertical lines of the stone fireplace and the horizontal lines of the mantel. The change was breathtaking. The room snapped into place. The walls stood tall and strong. The beams became powerful straight lines drawing the eye upwards, emphasizing the height and grandeur of the space. The agent later told me that multiple potential buyers who saw the photos online commented on the solid, castle-like feel of the home. That feeling wasn't just in the bricks and mortar. It was engineered into the photograph by correcting the geometry. This isn't about faking it. It's about correcting the inherent flaws of the camera to present the property as it feels when you're standing in it. Your eyes and brain naturally compensate for perspective distortion in real life. A photograph freezes that distortion in place. Your job is to unfreeze it, to restore the truth of the space. So before you touch a single color slider, before you adjust brightness or contrast, make this your unbreakable rule. Open the transform panel. Hit auto. If it's not perfect, use the manual vertical and horizontal sliders. If it's still not right, use the guided upright tool. Look at every vertical line: walls, windows, doors, cabinets, the corner of the room. They should be perfectly vertical. Look at the horizontal lines: countertops, mantels, windowsills. They should be perfectly horizontal. This single discipline will elevate your work more than any other. It builds instant trust with the potential buyer. It makes the home feel safe, secure, and well-built. It is the bedrock of professional real estate photo editing. Now that we've built our strong, stable foundation with perfectly straight lines, it's time to bring that structure to life. Because a perfectly straight, but dark and gloomy room isn't going to attract anyone. We need to flood that space with the most appealing, most emotionally resonant element of all: light. And that brings us to our second and arguably most crucial tip, which is all about mastering the dynamic range. It's about how to capture the bright, beautiful view out the window and the warm, cozy details inside the room, all in one single breathtaking image, without it looking fake or over-processed. So let's break this down. The human eye is an incredible piece of biological machinery. When you stand in a living room, you can simultaneously see the rich texture of the dark hardwood floors, the subtle pattern on the throw pillows in the corner, and the bright, sunny day with fluffy white clouds outside the window. Your brain processes all of this information instantly. A camera, even a very expensive one, simply can't. It's limited. It has to make a choice. This choice is what we call exposing the image. If you expose for the room's interior, the window becomes a giant, blown-out white rectangle of pure light, erasing any detail of that beautiful backyard view. If you expose for the view outside, the interior of the room plunges into a dark, shadowy, and uninviting mess. This is the classic dynamic range problem, and it's the #1 amateur mistake that makes a property look cheap. Now, what's the common fix you see everywhere? It's the dreaded HDR look. People take their single, poorly exposed photo into an editor like Lightroom, and they slam the shadows slider all the way to the right to brighten the dark room, and they crank the highlights slider all the way to the left to bring back the blown-out window. And what you get is, well, you've seen it. You get this flat, grayish, cartoonish image. The shadows have no depth, the highlights have no sparkle, and there are these weird halos of light around the window frames and furniture. It looks crunchy, overprocessed, and frankly, it screams, "I'm trying to hide something." American buyers are more visually sophisticated than ever before. They spend hours scrolling Zillow, Redfin, and Instagram. Their brains are now hardwired to recognize this unnatural look, and it instantly devalues the property in their mind. Feels deceptive. Feels low budget. It does the exact opposite of what you want. It repels rather than attracts. So how do the pros do it? How do they get that magazine quality shot that looks bright, clear, and perfectly balanced, yet still feels completely natural? The answer is a technique that sounds complicated, but is actually incredibly straightforward once you understand the logic. It's called the Flambient Method. It's a combination of the words flash and ambient, and it's the single most important technique you can learn to elevate your real estate photography. Instead of trying to capture everything in one magical impossible shot, you take multiple specialized shots and you blend them together. It's like being a chef, using different pure ingredients to create a perfect final dish, rather than throwing everything into a blender and hoping for the best. Here's the recipe. First, you take your flash shot. For this, you put your camera on a sturdy tripod, and it absolutely must not move between shots. You set up an external flash, maybe bounced off a ceiling or a wall, to evenly and cleanly light the entire room. Your camera settings will be something like ISO 100 to keep it clean, an aperture of around f/8 for sharpness, and a shutter speed fast enough like 1/160th of a second to overpower all the existing light in the room. When you take this shot, the interior will look perfect. The colors of the walls will be accurate, the furniture will be crisp and detailed, and there will be no weird orange glow from the lamps or blue cast from the windows. The window itself, however, will likely look dark, maybe even black. And that is exactly what you want. This is your base layer. This is your shot for perfect interior detail and color. Next, without moving the tripod an inch, you take your ambient shots. You turn off your flash completely. Now, your goal is to capture the natural light, the atmosphere, and that all-important view. You're going to bracket your exposures. This just means you take several photos at different brightness levels. You'll take one normal exposure for the room's ambient light. This will capture the soft glow from the windows and the warm light from any lamps. The room will look moody and natural, but the window will still be too bright. So, you take another shot, this time exposing specifically for the view outside. You make your shutter speed much faster so the interior of the room becomes very dark, but that sky outside is a perfect blue, the trees are a vibrant green, and you can see every detail. You now have all the perfect ingredients. You have a flash shot with a perfect interior, and an ambient shot with a perfect exterior view. Now for the magic. You open these images in a program that uses layers, like Adobe Photoshop. You start with your perfect flash shot as your base layer at the bottom. It's your foundation. Then, you place your perfect ambient window shot as a new layer right on top of it. At first, you'll only see the dark ambient shot. But here's the key. You add a black layer mask to that top layer. Think of a layer mask as a magical piece of paper that lets you poke holes in a layer to reveal what's underneath. When the mask is black, it's completely opaque. It hides the entire ambient layer, so all you see is your base flash shot again. Then you select a soft white paintbrush tool. And with that white brush, you simply start painting over the window panes in your image. And as you paint, you are essentially erasing the black mask in that area, revealing the perfectly exposed window from your ambient layer underneath. It literally feels like you are painting a beautiful view into the window. The dark, boring window from your flash shot disappears, and in its place is the stunning, vibrant backyard from your ambient shot. The transition is seamless. You've combined the best of both worlds. You have a crisp, color-accurate interior, and a breathtaking, perfectly exposed view, all in one image that looks completely real. This is what subconsciously signals high value to a US buyer. It doesn't look like a cheap trick. It looks like reality, but better. It represents the feeling of being in that room, an experience the camera couldn't capture on its own. Feels professional, clean, and honest. When a potential buyer is scrolling through hundreds of listings, this is the kind of image that makes them stop. It makes them feel that the seller cared enough to present the home properly. It builds trust before they've even read the description. And here's a little pro tip to take it even further. Don't just paint the window in at 100% opacity. For an even more natural look, you can use that same white brush at a lower opacity, say 20 or 30%, to gently brush in some of the natural light from the ambient layer onto the floor near the window, or onto the walls. This reintroduces some of that soft, natural glow that the flash may have flattened, giving the final image an incredible sense of depth and realism. You're not just combining photos, you are sculpting the light, guiding the viewer's eye, and creating an image that sells not just a house, but a lifestyle. So to recap, forget the HDR sliders. Shoot on a tripod. Take one flash shot for a clean interior, and one ambient shot for the beautiful view. Then, blend them together using a simple layer mask in Photoshop. It's the difference between a photo that gets swiped past and a photo that gets the click, the save, and ultimately the showing. Now, mastering the light and dynamic range is arguably the biggest hurdle. But it's only one half of the equation for creating an irresistible image. The other half, which is just as critical, is color. Because if you have a perfectly lit room, but the white trim looks yellow, the gray walls look blue, and the whole image has a weird, sickly color cast, all of your hard work is for nothing. It can make a brand new home look old and dated. Getting your colors right, especially your whites, is non-negotiable for the US market. And that leads us directly to our second crucial tip: achieving perfect color balance and making your whites pop. It's one thing to have a photo that's technically well lit, but if the colors are off, the entire emotional impact is lost. Think about it. You walk into a room, and the walls are supposed to be a nice, neutral white. But in the photo, they have this sickly yellowish tint. What does that say to a potential buyer in Texas or Florida or California? It screams old. It smells of cigarette smoke, even if the house has never seen a smoker. It suggests years of grime and neglect. That yellow cast is a subconscious deal breaker. It's the digital equivalent of a musty smell. On the other end of the spectrum, you have the blue cast. This happens a lot with shadows or light from a north-facing window. The photo looks cold, sterile, almost clinical. It's uninviting. It doesn't feel like a home. It feels like a waiting room. It's harsh and impersonal. Buyers aren't looking for a place to feel cold and isolated. They're looking for warmth, comfort, and a place to build a life. That subtle blue tint can kill the cozy factor before they even realize why they don't like the picture. The goal is to find that perfect Goldilocks balance. Not too warm, not too cold. Just right. And the key to just right is establishing a true brilliant white. When the whites in a photo are actually white, the trim, the ceilings, the kitchen cabinets, the bathroom porcelain, everything else falls into place. The other colors in the room, like a blue accent wall or a rich hardwood floor, suddenly look more vibrant and true to life. Clean whites act as the anchor for the entire color palette of your image. It's like getting the foundation of a house perfect. Once the foundation is solid, building the rest is easy. Get it wrong, and the whole structure is compromised. So how do we do it? How do we banish the yellow monster and the cold blue ghost from our photos? The first and most powerful tool in your arsenal is the white balance selector, often called the eyedropper tool, in programs like Lightroom or Photoshop. This is your magic wand for color correction. The theory is simple. You tell the software what's supposed to be a neutral color, white or gray, and it will adjust the entire image's color temperature and tint to make it so. Now you can't just click on any white object. If you click on a white that's blown out, meaning it's so bright that all detail is lost and it's just pure digital white, the tool won't have enough data to work with. You need to find a spot that is white or a light to mid-tone gray, but still has some texture and detail. Think about the side of a white door frame that's not in direct, harsh light, or a white light switch plate. Maybe a gray countertop or a piece of white crown molding in a slightly shadowed area. When you find your spot and you click boom, the transformation is instant. That ugly yellow haze that was plaguing your beautiful kitchen photo just vanishes. The cold, sterile blue in the living room recedes, and a more natural, inviting tone takes its place. It's often a one-click fix that takes a photo from amateur to professional. But it's not always perfect. Sometimes the eyedropper gets you 90% of the way there, but it still feels a little off. This is where the art meets the science. You need to switch to manual control using the two most important sliders for color: temperature and tint. Let's start with temperature. This slider is your warm to cool control. Sliding it to the left adds blue, making the image feel cooler. Sliding it to the right adds yellow, making it feel warmer. Don't think of this as just a correction tool. Think of it as a mood-setting tool. For a cozy family room with a fireplace, you might want to nudge the temperature ever so slightly to the warmer side to enhance that feeling of comfort. For an ultra-modern kitchen with stainless steel appliances and marble countertops, you want a crisp, clean, perfectly neutral white, maybe even leaning a tiny bit cool to emphasize that sleek, modern feel. The key is subtlety. We're talking about tiny incremental adjustments, not drastic swings. Next is the tint slider. This controls the green to magenta balance. Most of the time, your camera and the eyedropper tool handle this pretty well, but you'll need it when dealing with tricky lighting. For example, have you ever taken a photo where the light coming through a window makes everything look slightly green? That's often because the light is reflecting off a lush green lawn or trees outside. A tiny nudge of the tint slider towards magenta will neutralize that green and save your photo. The same goes for weird magenta casts from certain types of energy-efficient or fluorescent bulbs. A little push towards green and it's gone. Think of temperature as your big, broad brushstroke for color, and tint as your fine detail brush for fixing those nagging imperfections. Once your white balance is neutral, it's time to make those whites truly pop. This is what separates a good photo from a breathtaking one. The first place to go is your basic exposure panel. You have sliders labeled whites and highlights. Gently, and I mean gently, push the whites slider up. Watch what happens to the trim, the ceiling, and the cabinets. They start to glow with a clean, brilliant light. This adds contrast and makes the image feel brighter and more alive. Be careful though. If you push it too far, you'll blow out your highlights, and that beautiful detail in the white lace curtain will disappear into a flat, white blob. You want to push it right to the edge, where it's bright and vibrant but still holds every last bit of detail. But here's a pro-level technique that most people miss. Dive into the HSL panel, which stands for hue, saturation, and luminance. This panel lets you control individual colors. Let's say you've corrected your white balance, but the white walls still have a faint, stubborn yellow tint from the reflection of those beautiful hardwood floors. Instead of making the whole image cooler and ruining the warmth of the wood, you can go to the HSL panel, select the yellow channel, and slightly decrease its saturation. Then you can increase its luminance or brightness. What you're doing is surgically targeting only the yellow color in the image, stripping out some of its color, and making it brighter. The result? The yellow tint on the walls disappears, turning them a brilliant white, while the rich, warm color of the hardwood floors remains completely untouched. This level of control is game-changing. It allows you to perfect your whites without sacrificing the color integrity of the rest of the room. You can do the same thing for blue casts and shadows. Go to the blue channel, dial back the saturation a bit, and a cold, distracting shadow becomes a soft, neutral one. Getting your color and whites right is about creating an emotional response. It's about presenting a clean, fresh, and desirable canvas onto which a US buyer can project their future life. It tells them this home is new, it's well-maintained, and it's ready for them. Now that your colors are perfect and your whites are sparkling, the room looks clean and inviting. But there's a subtle subconscious problem that can make even the most beautiful room feel off. It can feel like the walls are closing in, or like you're looking at it through a funhouse mirror. And this distortion can make a buyer click away without even knowing why. We need to fix that, and it all comes down to straightening our lines and correcting for lens distortion. So let's start with the most common problem: keystoning. This is what happens when you tilt your camera up to get the top of a tall window, or tilt it down to get more of that beautiful hardwood floor. When you do that, the vertical lines in your photo, the walls, the door frames, the edges of a fireplace start to converge. They lean in towards each other, making the room look like it's falling in on itself. It's an optical illusion, but to a buyer's brain it just feels wrong. It feels unstable. The second problem is lens distortion itself. Every lens, especially the wide-angle lenses we need for real estate, bends the light passing through it. This usually results in what's called barrel distortion, where straight lines near the edge of the frame appear to bow outwards, like the staves of a wooden barrel. A perfectly straight countertop can suddenly look curved. A rectangular doorway can look like it's bulging. Again, it's subtle, but it disrupts the clean architectural lines that signal quality and good construction. Our brains are hardwired over millennia to recognize and appreciate straight, true lines. Think about it. A well-built structure is one with perfect verticals and horizontals. It's stable, it's safe, it's reliable. When a potential buyer sees a photo where the walls are leaning and the lines are bowed, their subconscious brain registers a tiny red flag. It might not know the technical term for it, but it feels a sense of unease, of slight chaos. It doesn't feel like a solid, dependable home. It feels off. By correcting these geometric flaws, you're not just making a prettier picture. You are subconsciously communicating professionalism, stability, and honesty. You're telling the buyer, this property is solid. It was built right. And the person representing it is a professional who cares about the details. It's a level of trust you build before they even step foot in the door. So how do we fix it? Thankfully, modern editing software like Adobe Lightroom has made this incredibly simple. It's a two-step process, and the first step is so easy it feels like cheating. It's called lens profile correction. Almost every modern lens has a digital profile, a sort of fingerprint that tells the software exactly how it distorts light. In Lightroom, you go to the Lens Corrections panel and simply check a box that says, Enable Profile Corrections. The software will automatically detect the lens you used, pull up its profile, and instantly counteract the specific barrel distortion your lens creates. Boom! With one click, those bowing curved lines at the edge of your frame snap back into perfect straightness. This should be the very first thing you do to every single photo. It's a non-negotiable step that takes 2 seconds and instantly improves the integrity of your image. But that only fixes the lens's inherent flaws. It doesn't fix our flaw, the fact that we tilted the camera. For that, we need to move to the Transform panel. This is our digital toolkit for playing architect. The Transform panel has a set of buttons: Auto, Level, Vertical, and Full. Auto is the software's best guess. Sometimes it nails it, sometimes it gets a little weird. It's worth a click to see what happens. Level focuses only on making the horizontal line straight. Vertical is our bread and butter in real estate. Clicking this button tells Lightroom to find all the dominant vertical lines in the image and force them to be perfectly 90-degree vertical. In 90% of interior shots, clicking vertical is all you need to do. Those converging walls, those leaning door frames, they immediately stand up straight, and the room breathes a sigh of relief. It instantly looks more spacious, more stable, more professional. But what if the automatic buttons don't quite get it right? What if the software gets confused by a complex scene? This is where we pull out the secret weapon of the pros, the Guided Upright tool. This tool is your digital laser level. It lets you take control and tell the software exactly what should be straight. You select the tool, and your cursor turns into a little crosshair. You find a line in your image that you know for a fact is supposed to be perfectly vertical. A door frame is perfect for this. You click at the top of the frame, drag a line down to the bottom, and let go. The software now understands what vertical means in your photo. Then, you find a line that's supposed to be horizontal, a ceiling line, a countertop, the top of a window. You click and drag a line across it. The moment you release that second line, the magic happens. The entire image shifts, rotates, and transforms itself to align with the guides you just drew. Everything snaps into perfect geometric harmony. It is, without a doubt, one of the most satisfying clicks in all of photo editing. You are literally restoring order to the universe of that room. Now there's a critical consequence to all this straightening that you have to be prepared for. When you correct perspective, the software has to warp and stretch the image. This means the edges will no longer be a perfect rectangle. To fix this, you have to crop in slightly. This is why it is absolutely vital to shoot a little wider than you think you need to. Always leave some breathing room around the edges of your frame, because you know you're going to lose a little bit of it during the perspective correction process. If you frame your shot perfectly in camera, you might end up cropping out an important part of the room later. So step back, shoot wide, and give your future self the gift of cropping options. Let's put this all together in a real-world scenario. A buyer is mindlessly scrolling through 100 listings. Their thumb is flying. They see a photo of a bedroom. It was shot with a wide-angle lens, and the photographer tilted the camera up to get the ceiling fan. The walls are leaning in, making the room feel cramped, almost claustrophobic. The dresser on the side of the frame looks like it's bulging out. The buyer's brain doesn't analyze it. It just feels a flicker of discomfort and keeps scrolling. Gone. Now let's say they see your photo of the same room. You took the same shot, but you spent 30 seconds in post-production. You clicked Enable Profile Corrections, and that bulging dresser snapped back to its true straight-line shape. You clicked the vertical button in the Transform panel, and those leaning walls stood up tall and proud, making the room feel open and airy. Every line is true. The room feels solid, feels calm, feels like a place someone could actually live. Their thumb stops. They tap on your photo. They look at the rest of the gallery. You didn't just sell a photo. You sold a feeling of stability and peace. You sold a home. That is the profound power of getting your lines straight. It's the foundation upon which every other edit is built. If your geometry is off, it doesn't matter how great your colors are or how bright the exposure is. The house will always feel a little bit broken. But once our foundation is solid, once our lines are straight and the space feels architecturally sound, we can finally begin to paint. We can bring the room to life. Because a perfectly straight room that's dark, dreary, and has weird colored walls is still a room nobody wants to buy. And that brings us to our fourth and arguably most emotionally impactful tip: mastering the art of light and color to forge an irresistible connection with the buyer. Let's break this down, because light and color aren't just settings on a slider. They are the language of emotion in photography. Your brain is hardwired to interpret light and color in specific ways. Bright, evenly lit spaces feel safe, open, and full of possibility. Dark, shadowy spaces feel cramped, uncertain, and even dangerous. Similarly, warm, natural colors feel inviting and cozy, while strange, unnatural color casts, like a greenish tint from an office light or a sickly yellow from an old bulb, feel off-putting and unclean. When a potential buyer is scrolling through hundreds of listings, they aren't consciously thinking about this. They are feeling it. Their thumb stops scrolling because an image feels right. Our job is to engineer that feeling. Let's start with light. The single biggest mistake in real estate photos is improper exposure, specifically in rooms with windows. The camera sensor has a limited dynamic range, which is a fancy way of saying it can't see the super bright parts and the super dark parts of a scene at the same time, not like the human eye can. So it makes a choice. It either exposes for the bright window, plunging the entire room into a dark, shadowy cave, or it exposes for the room, turning the window into a blinding, blown-out white rectangle of nothingness. Both are terrible for sales. A dark room feels depressing. A blown-out window screams amateur photo, and more importantly, it hides one of the property's key assets: the view and the natural light. The fix is a two-step process in your editing software, whether it's Lightroom, Photoshop, or a free alternative. First, you tackle the global adjustments: exposure, contrast, highlights, and shadows. Think of exposure as the master light switch for the entire photo. You want to bring it up until the room feels bright and airy, but not so much that it starts to look washed out or fake. A great pro tip is to watch your histogram, that little mountain range graph in your editing software. You want the mountain to be spread out across the graph, not all crammed up on the left side too dark, or the right side too bright. Once the overall brightness feels good, you become a sculptor of light using the highlights and shadows sliders. This is where the real magic happens. That blown out white window? Grab the highlight slider and pull it down. Pull it way, way down, and watch as detail miraculously reappears. Suddenly, it's not a white void anymore. It's a beautiful blue sky, a lush green backyard, the neighbor's charming brick house. You've just added thousands of dollars of perceived value by revealing what's outside the home. You've connected the indoor space to the outdoor space. Now for the opposite problem, the dark corners. The space behind the sofa, the hallway at the end of the room. These areas collect shadows that make the room feel smaller and less defined. Grab the shadows slider and lift it up. Be gentle. You don't want to eliminate shadows completely, because they provide depth and make the photo look three-dimensional. But by lifting them, you reveal the detail hiding in the darkness. You show that the beautiful hardwood floors continue all the way to the wall. You show the full size and shape of the room. You're subconsciously telling the buyer, there's nothing to hide here. This space is clean, open, and exactly as you see it. By balancing the highlights and the shadows, you are essentially recreating the experience of the human eye, presenting a scene that is wide, bright, and welcoming. But a bright room with weird colors is still a weird room. This brings us to the second pillar, color. The enemy here is called color cast. It's the subtle, overall tint of a single color caused by the lighting in the room. Incandescent bulbs cast a yellow/orange light. Fluorescent lights cast a green/magenta light. And daylight itself changes color depending on the time of day, or if it's coming through a north or south-facing window. Your camera tries to guess the correct color, but it often gets it wrong. The result? Your beautiful neutral gray walls look slightly blue. Your crisp white cabinets look creamy and yellowed. This is a huge problem. It can make a brand new kitchen look dated, or a clean room look dirty. The solution is your absolute first step in color editing: setting the white balance. This is non-negotiable. It is the foundation upon which all other color adjustments are built. In your software, you'll find a tool, often an eyedropper icon, for white balance. Your mission is to find something in the photo that is supposed to be a neutral white or gray. A white door, a light switch plate, a white ceiling, the trim around a window. Click on it, and just like that, you'll see the entire image magically shift. The yellow cast from the lamps vanishes. The blue tint from the window light neutralizes. The colors in the room suddenly snap into place, looking clean, accurate, and true to life. This single click can be the difference between a home that looks dingy and one that looks pristine. Once your white balance is correct, you can enhance the colors that are already there. But be careful. This is where many people make a huge mistake by cranking up the saturation slider. Saturation is a blunt instrument. It boosts every single color in the image equally and aggressively. A little bit goes a very long way, and too much makes the photo look garish, cartoonish, and cheap. The grass becomes neon green. The wood floors turn radioactive orange. It's a dead giveaway of an amateur edit. Instead, you want to use its more intelligent cousin, the Vibrance slider. Vibrance is a much smarter tool. It primarily increases the intensity of the more muted, subtle colors while leaving the already saturated colors alone. What does this mean for your photo? It means the blue sky will get a little deeper, the green grass a little richer, and the warm tones in the hardwood floor will get a little warmer, all without making the bright red accent pillow look like it's on fire. A gentle boost in vibrance makes a photo feel more alive and, well, vibrant, without screaming, "I've been edited." It adds a pop of life that makes the home feel more appealing and desirable. Finally, for those who want to take it to the next level, there's a subtle technique called color grading. While color correction is about accuracy, color grading is about mood. This involves adding a very slight color tint to the shadows and highlights to evoke a specific feeling. For a modern, clean, minimalist home, you might add a tiny, almost imperceptible touch of blue or cyan to the shadows. This makes the whites look crisper and the space feel more sleek and airy. For a cozy, traditional home with a fireplace and wood beams, you might add a hint of yellow or orange to the highlights. This enhances the feeling of sunshine and warmth, making the space feel more inviting and comfortable. The key here is extreme subtlety. The buyer should never be able to point to it and say, "Oh, they made the shadows blue." They should just feel it. They'll look at the photo and think, "Wow, that place looks so warm and cozy," without knowing that your masterful, subtle edit is what planted that thought in their mind. So let's put it all together. You start with a raw photo of a living room. The window is a white flare, the corner is dark, and the walls have a yellow tint from a lamp. Step 1. Use the white balance tool on a white door frame. Instantly, the yellow cast is gone, and the walls are a clean, neutral gray. Step 2. Pull down the highlights. The blue sky and green trees pop into view outside the window. Step 3. Lift the shadows. The dark corner brightens, revealing the rest of the floor and making the room feel bigger. Step 4. Add a small, tasteful touch of vibrance. The colors on the bookshelf and the area rug become a little richer and more defined. The result? You haven't changed the facts of the room. You haven't moved a wall or replaced the furniture. You have simply removed the technical limitations of the camera and presented the room in its best possible light, full of life, space, and accurate, beautiful color. You've created that scroll-stopping image that makes a buyer pause, click, and emotionally connect with the space before they've even set foot inside. But what if the room itself has a flaw you can't fix with light and color? What if there's a distracting crack in the ceiling, a scuff mark on the hardwood floor, or the lawn outside has a giant brown patch from the summer heat? Just making it brighter won't fix that. That's where our fifth and final tip comes in: the ethical art of digital renovation, where we fix the flaws without faking the facts. This is where the magic and the controversy truly lies. Digital renovation isn't about creating a fantasy. It's about presenting the absolute best version of reality. It's about correcting temporary imperfections to showcase a property's permanent potential. Think of it this way: if you were having a professional headshot taken, and you woke up with a small pimple on your forehead, would you want the photographer to leave it in? Of course not. You'd ask them to remove it, because that pimple isn't a permanent part of your face. It's a temporary flaw. The same logic applies to a house. The dead patch on the lawn? That's a temporary result of a dry spell. With a little water and seed, it will be green again. The gloomy, overcast sky? That's just the weather on a Tuesday morning. It's not a permanent fixture of the property. A scuff mark on the baseboard from a vacuum cleaner? That's a 2-minute fix with a dab of paint. Our job as editors is to digitally perform these minor, expected repairs that a seller would almost certainly do before an open house. We're aligning the online photos with the showing-ready version of the home, removing distractions so buyers can focus on what truly matters: the layout, the space, the light, the features. The golden rule that separates an ethical artist from a digital fraud is simple: fix, don't fabricate. This is the line you must never ever cross, especially in the US market where disclosure is everything. Let's break down exactly what that means with real-world examples. What can you ethically fix? First, lawns. Greening up a brown dormant lawn is one of the most common and accepted edits in the industry. You're not adding a lawn that isn't there. You're just showing what it looks like when it's healthy. To do this in a program like Photoshop, it's not about just painting it green. You use a hue/saturation adjustment layer. You'd select the yellow and brown color ranges in the image, and then gently shift the hue slider towards green. You'll boost the saturation a bit to give it life and maybe tweak the lightness. The result is a natural, lush lawn that looks like it's been well cared for, instantly boosting curb appeal. Second, skies. Nobody is buying the weather. Replacing a dull, white, or rainy sky with a pleasant blue one with a few fluffy clouds is standard operating procedure. It completely changes the mood of an exterior shot from depressing to inviting. Modern software makes this incredibly easy. Photoshop's AI-powered sky replacement tool can do this with a single click. It analyzes the image, automatically masks out the old sky, and drops in a new one from its library or one you provide. The incredible part is that the AI also automatically analyzes the light in the new sky and relights the foreground of your image, the house, the trees, the driveway, to match. So if you drop in a warm golden hour sky, the tool will add a subtle golden glow to the house itself. It's a breathtakingly powerful tool that can save a photo shoot that was cursed with bad weather. Third, minor cosmetic blemishes. This is digital touch-up paint. Use the spot healing brush or clone stamp tool to remove things like nail holes in a wall, small stress cracks in a driveway, or a bit of mildew on the siding. The key word here is minor. You're cleaning, not reconstructing. You're removing distractions, not hiding structural defects. If there's a giant foundation-splitting crack running up the wall, you do not touch it. That is a material fact about the property. But a small scuff from a moving box? That's fair game. What can you absolutely not do? You cannot fabricate. You cannot remove permanent, significant features. Don't edit out the power lines that cut across the backyard. Don't remove the neighbor's house that's a little too close for comfort. Don't erase the water tower you can see from the master bedroom window. These are part of the property's reality, and hiding them is deceptive. You also cannot add features that don't exist. You cannot Photoshop a swimming pool into the backyard. You can't add a fireplace to the living room wall. You can't turn a dusty patch of dirt into a beautiful stone patio. This is outright fraud and can land you in serious legal trouble. Similarly, you cannot change the core materials of the house. Don't turn vinyl siding into brick. Don't change the laminate countertops to look like granite or marble. The substance of the home must remain untouched. You are polishing the apple, not turning it into an orange. This brings us to a crucial point for anyone working in the US. Disclosure. While these ethical edits are standard practice, transparency is your best defense and your greatest tool for building trust. My professional recommendation is to always maintain two versions of every photo. The beautifully edited one for the public-facing MLS listing and marketing, and the original untouched RAW file saved securely on your hard drive. In the unlikely event of a dispute, you have the before photo as proof of the original condition. Furthermore, it's wise to include a small disclaimer in the property description. Something simple like, some images have been digitally enhanced for marketing purposes, including sky replacement and lawn greening, to show the property in its best light. This simple sentence protects the agent, builds trust with savvy buyers, and makes it clear that you're being honest. You're not hiding anything. You're simply using professional marketing techniques. Now let's take this concept of showing potential one step further with a technique that has revolutionized how we sell empty homes: virtual staging. An empty room is an imagination vacuum. Buyers struggle to understand the scale. How big is this room? Will my king-size bed fit? Can I put a sofa and 2 chairs in here? An empty space often feels smaller and colder than it actually is. Physical staging, where you hire a company to bring in actual furniture, is a fantastic solution, but it's also expensive, often costing thousands of dollars and time-consuming. Virtual staging is the digital alternative. Using specialized software, you can place high-quality, 3D models of furniture, rugs, art, and decor into a photo of an empty room. Suddenly, that vacant box of a living room becomes a warm, inviting space. That empty spare room is transformed into a perfect home office or a cozy nursery. It helps buyers connect emotionally with the space. They can see themselves living there. And just like our other digital renovations, the ethics are paramount. It must always be disclosed. Most MLS systems require it. You should have a small, elegant watermark in the corner of the image that says, "Virtually staged." This is non-negotiable. You are selling the potential of the space, not the digital furniture within it. By being upfront, you're providing immense value, helping buyers visualize their future life in that home without a hint of deception. So, this final powerful tip is all about mastering that delicate balance. It's about using technology to clean, correct, and inspire. It's about understanding that a home's first showing no longer happens when a buyer walks through the front door. It happens on their phone while they're scrolling on their lunch break. Your job is to make that digital first impression so compelling, so clean, and so full of potential that they absolutely have to see it in person. When you fix the temporary flaws and showcase the permanent beauty, you're not just editing a photo, you're crafting an invitation. So from mastering your camera's raw power to ethically enhancing reality, these 5 pillars form the foundation of photos that don't just show a property, they sell a dream. But how do you tie it all together into a workflow that's both efficient and effective, turning a folder of raw images into a stunning listing gallery without spending days chained to your computer? That's the final piece of the puzzle. And that final piece isn't some expensive software or a secret plugin. It's a system. A repeatable, battle-tested workflow that transforms a chaotic folder of 100 raw images into a polished, compelling gallery of 25 perfect shots. It's the difference between spending 8 hours on a property and spending 90 minutes. It's the assembly line that allows professional photographers to handle multiple listings a day while amateurs are still drowning in the first one. This is the blueprint. The first step, and arguably the most important for your sanity and your schedule, is what I call the ruthless cull. Before you touch a single slider, before you even think about white balance, you have to become a merciless editor of your own work. You just got back from a shoot, you've uploaded your memory card, and you're looking at a sea of images. The temptation is to try and save every single one. Don't. You are not being paid to deliver 100 mediocre photos. You are being paid to deliver 24 incredible ones that sell a house. Here's the process. Open your editing software, Lightroom is perfect for this, and go into a full screen or library view. Now do one quick pass-through using only the arrow keys and one single button. The X key for reject. You're looking for the obvious failures. Photos that are blurry, completely misfired flashes, accidental shots of your own feet, frames where someone walked through the shot. Don't even think. Just see it, reject it, and move on. This first pass should take less than 5 minutes. Once you've flagged all the rejects, filter them out so you never have to see them again. Now for the second pass. This time you're going to use a rating system. I use stars, but flags or colors work too. Go through the remaining images, and this time you're only pressing the 1 key for any photo that is a potential keeper. Is it sharp? Is the composition decent? Does it show the room in a useful way? If yes, it gets 1 star. Again, do not overthink it. You're not deciding on the final gallery yet. You're just separating the contenders from the B team. This pass might take 10 minutes. Now filter your view to show only the 1-star images. Suddenly, that folder of 150 photos is a manageable 30 or 40. This is your working set. You've just saved yourself hours of wasted effort trying to polish photos that were never going to make the cut. The aha moment for me was realizing that time spent editing a bad photo is completely wasted time. The ruthless cull ensures you only spend time on images that have a chance to be great. With your curated selection ready, we move to stage 2, the global pass. This is the 80/20ths of real estate photo editing. We're going to make broad, sweeping adjustments to all of our selected photos at once. In Lightroom, this is incredibly easy. Select all the photos from your cull. In the Develop module, go to the Lens Corrections panel. Check Enable Profile Corrections, and remove Chromatic Aberration. Boom! In 2 clicks, you've just fixed the distortion and weird color fringing that every lens produces on every single one of your selected images. This instantly makes them look more professional. Next, while all the photos are still selected, make a few basic adjustments that will likely apply to all of them. Did you shoot on a bright day? Maybe bring the highlights down just a touch across the board. Were the interiors a bit dark? Push the shadows up globally. The goal here isn't to perfect any single image, but to get everything into the same ballpark. Think of it as laying the foundation. You're establishing a baseline. The most powerful tool for this is syncing your white balance. Find one photo with a good neutral gray or white surface, correct the white balance on that one image, and then sync that setting across all the other photos taken in that same room with the same lighting. This creates instant consistency. This whole global pass, correcting the lens and making a few baseline tweaks across 30 photos, should take you no more than 15 minutes. But it accomplishes about 80% of the basic correction work. Now we enter stage 3, the marquee edits. Your photos are culled, they're corrected for lens issues, and they have a consistent baseline. Now, and only now, do you go image by image. But you don't treat them all equally. You have to identify your hero shots. These are the money shots. The front exterior, the kitchen, the primary bedroom, the living room, and that one special feature like a pool or a stunning view. These 5 to 10 images are where you will spend the majority of your time. This is where you apply the advanced techniques we've talked about. This is where you do your meticulous window pulls, your sky replacements, your detailed color grading to make the greens pop and the whites pristine. You'll use adjustment brushes to brighten dark corners, Dodge and burn to add depth, and maybe even remove a distracting scuff mark from a wall. For the other secondary photos, the second bedroom, the laundry room, the hallway, you'll do a much quicker edit. A little straightening and exposure check, a contrast bump, and you're done. You don't need to spend 20 minutes on a photo of a powder room. The buyer just needs to see that it's clean and functional. By allocating your time and energy based on the importance of the photo, you focus your firepower where it has the most impact. The buyer's decision isn't going to hinge on the laundry room, but it absolutely can hinge on a jaw-dropping photo of the kitchen. This prioritized approach is what separates the pros from the people who burn out. After you've perfected your hero shots and cleaned up the supporting cast, you move to stage 4, the consistency check. This is a quick but vital step. Zoom out and look at all your edited photos together in a grid view. You're looking for harmony. Does the gallery feel like it belongs to one single beautiful home? Or does it look like a jumbled collection of photos edited on different days by different people? Scan for obvious inconsistencies. Is the kitchen photo warm and yellow while the adjoining living room is cool and blue? That's a jarring experience for a buyer. Adjust the color temperature to match. Is one photo significantly brighter or darker than the rest? Tweak the exposure. The goal is a smooth, seamless visual tour. When a buyer clicks through your photo gallery online, it should feel like they are walking through the house. Each image should flow logically and visually into the next. This final check ensures that unified, professional feel and rarely takes more than 10 minutes. Finally, we arrive at stage 5, the step that can undo all your hard work if you get it wrong, the delivery protocol. Exporting your photos. This sounds simple, but the settings are critical for how your images will appear on Zillow, Redfin, and the MLS. Get this wrong and your perfectly edited colors can look washed out, or your sharp images can look soft and pixelated. For the US market, the formula is almost always the same. File type should be JPEG. The color space must be sRGB. I repeat, it must be sRGB. If you use Adobe RGB or ProPhoto RGB, the colors will look completely wrong in a web browser. For image sizing, most MLS systems have a recommended pixel dimension. A good safe bet is to resize the long edge to around 2,400 pixels. This is large enough for high-resolution displays, but not so large that it creates a massive file. And for JPEG quality, do not set it to 100. The file size will be enormous with almost no visible difference. A setting between 75 and 85 is the sweet spot for a perfect balance of quality and file size, ensuring your photos load quickly for impatient online buyers. Create an export preset in your software with these settings. Call it MLS Export. Now every time you finish a project, it's a one-click process that guarantees perfect, consistent results. So there it is. The 5-stage workflow, the ruthless cull, the global pass, the marquee edits, the consistency check, and the delivery protocol. This is the system that takes you from overwhelmed to efficient. It's the framework that ensures quality and consistency on every single shoot. You've now created a perfect gallery of images, technically sound and emotionally resonant, ready to be uploaded. But your job isn't quite done, because having the perfect photos is only half the battle. How you present them is the other half. There is one final critical decision you make after all the editing is finished that can dramatically influence a buyer's perception of the home's value and flow. It's a psychological trick that the best agents and photographers use to build a narrative and control the buyer's virtual journey through the property. So what does that look like in practice? Imagine a typical online listing. A buyer clicks. The first image they see is a breathtaking twilight shot of the exterior, the windows glowing with a warm, inviting light. Instantly, they're captivated. The second image? The grand entryway, a wide shot that establishes the home's character. From there, you guide them logically: living room, dining room, kitchen. You're telling the story of daily life, of entertaining guests. Then you move to the primary bedroom and its en-suite bathroom, creating a private sanctuary. You follow with the other bedrooms, and then maybe the basement or bonus room. You finish with the backyard, the deck, the pool. The grand finale of the lifestyle this home offers. Compare that to a chaotic sequence: kitchen, then a random bedroom, then the backyard, then the front exterior, then the master bathroom. It's disorienting. It feels like a jumble of rooms, not a cohesive home. The buyer can't mentally map the space, and that confusion creates a subtle but powerful friction that makes them click away. By mastering the sequence, you're no longer just showing pictures. You're conducting a symphony. You're building anticipation, creating emotional highs, and presenting the property in its most compelling, understandable, and desirable order. It's the invisible framework that holds the entire visual presentation together. But controlling that narrative, that symphony, comes with a monumental responsibility. And this brings us to our fifth and final tip, the one that separates the amateurs from the true professionals, and the one that can make or break your reputation in this industry. Understanding the fine line between ethical enhancement and fraudulent deception. This is, without a doubt, the most critical skill to master. In the age of AI and powerful editing software, the temptation to fix everything is immense. You see a crack in the drywall, you can clone stamp it away. You see a water stain on the ceiling, a few clicks and it's gone. You see an unsightly power plant in the distance through a window? You can replace it with a beautiful mountain range. But just because you can, doesn't mean you should. In the United States, real estate is a heavily regulated industry. The National Association of Realtors has a strict code of ethics, and individual states have disclosure laws that carry serious legal weight. Misrepresenting a property isn't just bad business. It can be illegal. The photos you produce are considered part of the marketing and are subject to these rules. So what's the difference between a beautiful enhancement and a dangerous lie? The guiding principle should always be this. Are you editing to more accurately represent the best version of reality? Or are you editing to create a false reality? Let's break that down. Ethical enhancements are things that correct for the limitations of the camera or a temporary, non-permanent issue. For example, a camera's sensor can't capture the same dynamic range as the human eye. So when you blend multiple exposures to create a photo where the interior is perfectly lit, and you can still see the beautiful view outside the window, that's an ethical enhancement. You're simply recreating what a person would actually see if they were standing in that room. Greening up a patchy brown lawn from a dormant season is another common and generally accepted practice. You're showing the lawn in its prime, which is a fair representation of the property's potential. Removing a car from the driveway, a garbage can from the curb, or the reflection of the photographer in a mirror. These are all temporary objects that have no bearing on the property itself. Removing them cleans up the image and helps the buyer focus on the home. This is good editing. Deceptive editing, on the other hand, involves altering the permanent, physical condition of the property or its surroundings. That crack in the drywall you cloned out? If it's a sign of a shifting foundation, you just hit a major material defect. That water stain you removed? It could indicate a leaky roof, a serious problem you've now concealed from a potential buyer. And that power plant you replaced with a mountain? That is outright fraud. When that buyer shows up for a tour and sees a smokestack instead of a summit, the trust is instantly and irrevocably destroyed. Not only will they walk away from the deal, but that agent's reputation is now tarnished, and you, the photographer, could be implicated. Never, ever edit out things like power lines, cell phone towers, a neighbor's messy yard, or structural issues like large cracks, damaged flooring, or broken fixtures. Your job is to make the home look its absolute best, not to make it look like a different home. You use your skills with light, color, and composition to highlight the positive features. You shoot from angles that minimize the negative ones, but you do not digitally remove them from existence. Think of yourself as a trusted documentarian, not a fantasy artist. The trust of the buyer is the most valuable currency in any real estate transaction. Your photos are the first step in building that trust. If the photos lie, the entire foundation of the deal is built on sand. So let's bring it all together. We've covered 5 critical pillars for editing real estate photos that captivate the US market. We started with tip 1, nailing your color and white balance to create an image that feels bright, clean, and true to life. We moved to tip 2, the absolute necessity of correcting your vertical lines, ensuring every wall is perfectly straight to convey a sense of stability, professionalism, and architectural integrity. Then came tip 3, mastering the window pull, flawlessly blending exposures to showcase both the beautiful interior and the desirable view outside, selling the complete lifestyle. Our 4th tip was about the art of sequencing, arranging your final images not as a random collection, but as a deliberate, compelling story that guides the buyer on an emotional journey through the home. And finally, we just covered tip 5, the crucial line between ethical enhancement and deceptive misrepresentation, focusing on building trust by accurately portraying the property's best self, not a fictional version of it. Each of these tips is a tool, but tools are only as good as the artist who wields them. And the secret that ties all of this together isn't about software or settings. It's about empathy. Before you export that final gallery, put yourself in the shoes of the American buyer. They aren't just looking for a house. They're looking for a home. They're searching for the place where their kids will grow up, where they'll celebrate holidays, where they'll feel safe and build a life. They are scrolling through hundreds of listings, and their decision to click to schedule a showing to ultimately make an offer is driven by emotion first and logic second. Your photos are the primary driver of that emotion. Does the light look warm and inviting? Does the home feel spacious and full of possibility? Does the flow from one photo to the next make them feel like they're already walking through the halls? Can they picture their own furniture in that living room? Can they imagine sipping coffee on that back deck? You're not just selling square footage and a list of features. You are selling a dream. You are selling the next chapter in someone's life. When you edit with that in mind, when every adjustment you make is in service of telling that home's unique story and connecting with that buyer's aspirations, that's when you move beyond being just a technician. That's when you become an indispensable partner in the real estate process. That's how you create images that don't just get clicks, but that get families into their forever homes. Now I want to hear from you. In the comments below, tell me which of these 5 tips was the biggest aha moment for you. And if you're a seasoned pro, what's the one piece of advice you'd give to someone just starting out? The collective wisdom in this community is incredible, so let's share it. And if you found this deep dive valuable and you're serious about elevating your real estate media game, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Our next video is a complete breakdown of how to light challenging dark interiors to make them look like a magazine spread. And you are not going to want to miss it. Thank you for watching. Now go create something amazing.